Come on.
Good afternoon, hockey fans. We have a very special guest today coming on with us. The one and only, the legend, one of the top in the Mount Rushmore of the Fed. We have Mr. Joe Pace. Joe, how you doing today, sir?
No. You
No.
guys hear me? Oh, I hear
Yep.
you.
Yeah, we
We
can
can
hear you.
hear you.
Okay.
How you doing today, buddy?
Someone's muted. I see someone moving their mouth and I don't hear them. What's going on, boys?
Uh-oh.
Go ahead, guys. You talk. I'm going to kick out and come back.
So how you doing today, Joe? You doing pretty good?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm actually down here at the fire station right now.
So I know last weekend we tried setting this up and you had an incident with a dog.
Yes, I was trying to let my neighbor's dog out, and he was home alone. No one was there, and my son had taken on the job to do it. He was getting paid, and he went to baseball, and I figured I would help him and do it. And I paid the ultimate cost. I got bit on the hand and ended up in the ER.
Oh, jeepers. Is that like, did you get stitches for that or no?
No, I thought I was going to need them for at least one of them, and maybe two. And they said they don't stitch dog bites or animal bites because of risk of infection. So I just had to, deal with the open wound. So they're starting to really scab over now. Finally,
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's
It's not a fighting hand, is it?
and it wasn't a little dog either. He weighs about 90 pounds.
Oh man. I mean that's probably the worst injury you had in your hockey career, right? I mean, can you put that
Well,
on the list? Dog
I've
bite?
had I've had some cuts on the hand and things like that, and this was one of the bigger ones. I think I had one maybe just as big from a visor on a helmet because those visors are. I know people like to say how much they protect us, but they cause a lot of damage.
Yeah. They really maybe if they came down below the nose, but still when your head hit backwards, your visor's gonna hit your nose. It's just it's
Yeah,
gonna
my first years, we got to play with no visors. My first, it was like 3 or 4 years pro, and then having to put one on, it was a big change, and I never really got used to it. I never liked wearing one, but I saw guys, take a high stick without one, and it just hits them and grazes off, and then with it, it gets caught up in there, and it's, the guy's trying to jerk it out, and he cuts you again. And I just have always said, I was like, they help for like one thing, a puck coming straight at you, it saves you, but everything else, it just causes a lot of damage.
you think about it, I don't think a puck's gonna really help with that either because look what happened against that Vegas guy, the Golden Knights
Yep.
got hit right in the face, right in the nose.
Yeah.
Got like
Yep.
14 stitches from it or something like that. So,
Yeah.
ugh.
Right. I know probably by the time my kids are having kids, they're going to have the NHL wearing full cages or something. Game's
Hopefully not.
changed.
Hopefully not.
Game has changed.
Then you go from what the 50s and 60s, no helmets, no cages, no nothing, to now helmets with visors. I mean, what's the next 20 years going to fulfill? That's the reality of it all.
I think the last guy in the NHL that played without a helmet, he put one on for like one game and got high stuck in the face. He's like, "That's it. I'm taking the helmet off." And he just felt like, when he had no helmet, guys were a lot more careful around him. And I think that's a big part of the game is when you play your whole life with a full cage, you kind of get reckless with your stick. And then all of a sudden it's like you're playing pro, and now all of a sudden, guys are out there with the half shields, and you keep hitting guys in the mouth or in the face with your stick. And, usually that's when I would get most mad.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have that fine line. I mean, I know about safety and everything like that, but it's one of those things you gotta have that added precaution, but you can't get silly with your stick and hurt somebody on purpose. It's
Well, and the worst one I saw, his eye didn't come out of his head, but he got hit in the head with a stick. And over a course of, a couple of weeks, he slowly lost vision more and more until it was maybe a couple of months later, he was, 100% blind in that eye. But that was Kai Moji with Danville Dashers. And the guy that hit him didn't mean to do it. He was forechecking, and Kai made a move and went around him, and he went to stop or turn real fast and hard and lost his edge. And as he lost his edge, his stick just flew up and caught him right on the temple. And just that blow to the temple, it just damaged all his nerves behind his eye.
oh, that's
Man.
Yeah, it affected the blood flow to the eye and things like that. So last I heard, Kai's still playing a little bit of men's league and dropping up in Minnesota, and so he's still getting on the ice, but definitely affected his career.
yeah, that's crappy how it has to end like that. Like it's sad. Really, it's sad.
Well, and we were playing the Akwesasne Warriors, and it was this big guy, Stacy, who was known as a fighter. He was an enforcer. So everyone just heard the name, the team, and they're like, he did it on purpose. And it's like, well, I was right there, and you get to watch the tape over and over. And it's like, he really didn't. But it's just the reputation that team had.
Then you got that already, that identity built up with your name and your title, and it's just, oh, he did it on purpose. We got to kick him out of the league. Well, it's accidental. So it's like,
I don't even think he got a suspension for it, but everyone
Okay.
just assumed he did it on purpose. But that at the end of that season is when they had the big brawl with Thousand Islands at the end of playoffs in the handshake line, and then the fans fought, and then that team was out of the league.
wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, that I don't know if there's still tapes on Facebook or YouTube of that game, but game ends, Thousand Islands won, and you just see like the players are kind of forming up like they're going to start shaking hands, and all of a sudden fights start breaking out, and it's a full, it's 18-on-18 brawl, and Akwesasne is winning, and then all of a sudden you see the camera turn over in the stands, and fans are just going at it. And it looked like the Akwesasne fans were winning that fight too.
Wow. I mean, it's passion. You gotta have passion, and fans carry a lot of passion. I take it. So it's just, oof.
And that was before they moved down to Watertown. So they were the Thousand Islands Privateers. They played at a little old rodeo rink called Bonnie Castle. The ceiling was like not even 20 feet tall. It was a tiny little rink. If you went to flick the puck, it hit the roof, the game stopped. So if you were stuck in your own zone, all you had to do was shoot the puck up in the air and you got a whistle. But first time I played there, we got to the bench and glass had broke the week before somewhere else in the arena. And behind the bench, there was just a missing piece of glass. And so you're standing on the bench and the fans walk by and like shove you in the back, and you're like, what the? They're like, you guys suck. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, can we get security over here? They're like, oh, we don't have security. I'm like, man, welcome to the Fed.
I guess. I mean, the only thing I could picture is when you said a 20-foot ceiling, because that kind of brings me back to when Andy and Rick went down to Indiana and played to watch the Prowlers play Indiana. And that roof's probably only 30 feet. So it's like, well,
Oh, it's smaller than that. I feel like if you were a tall D man with a long stick and you just reached up and kind of just gave it a little jump, you touched the roof.
Dang.
that's nuts.
It was a wild place to play. The locker rooms were actually built in old stables. So you could make out where the horses used to be like stabled in the locker rooms. And like the home team side was the same way. I think they
That's
turned one, yeah, they turned one of the old stables into the coach's office and another one into like a 1-bedroom apartment. They had one guy living at the rink.
That's awesome if you think about it. Like,
Yeah, they were just like, put the 10th forward or 11th forward, put him in the stables. They're like, he doesn't even get to live at the houses. He's so bad, he has to live at the rink. He has to work on his game so much he can't leave.
I mean, at that point, you can make jokes saying, well, go feed the horses while you're there in the 1-bedroom apartment. Oh, okay. And there's no horse.
Right?
That's part of the
Right?
player
Saying it
agreement.
was a 1-bedroom apartment was a stretch. It was like just a room probably with a hot plate.
Wow. It's cool to hear them stories if you think about them. When you play, hear them stories of old, and like you could picture it in your mind, like, wow, that's neat. It's like Blue Ridge. Blue Ridge is an old rodeo barn. So it's like hearing that how facilities can get turned into from a horse stable to a rodeo arena to a hockey rink in a matter of 48 hours.
Don't
Yeah,
forget
and
the funeral
they
home.
got lucky there because that building was semi-new and had only been used for a couple events before they turned it into a rink. And they got really lucky with that facility. That was a nice transition for them. And I think that everyone in that town and region really likes it, and they're getting entertained. And what they did with expanding the stands and putting in more seats, they did a good job with it. For what they had to work with.
What's your take on the expansion now? Like going out to California and evolving out west. What's your thoughts on that?
So the Minnesota one was, that's rough because that's a lot of travel, long trips for that team to go anywhere. And I've been that team before. We were Danville when everyone else was in the Northeast, and we were the only team in the Midwest. And then Dane came in, and it was the two of us out there. But it was miserable that first year in Danville because our trip to Vermont, on the maps it says it's like 16 and a half hours, but one time coming home from there it took us 26 and a half hours. So
Dang.
few wrong turns, few bridges out for construction, got lost on the side of a mountain. Like, I swear we almost drove right down to Double Black Diamond. That was that I woke up that night and branches were hitting the windows. I was like, are we off-roading? I got up and it looked like we were driving down like a 4-wheeler trail. I like ran up to the front of the bus. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, this is the way the maps told us to go. I'm like, what map? And they're like, our phones. It was like first generation iPhones and stuff. And then literally we stopped the bus, we grabbed flashlights, we start walking up ahead to see where this road goes. And Bren Lindoff grabbed me. He's like, oh, Joe, stop. And we shine our flashlights down. It was this like a 20-foot drop. It was straight down. We're looking down like, whoa, what is this? And he goes, look up. We look up, shine the flashlights up. There was a chairlift right above us. We literally drove up a ski hill or a little mountain.
That's nuts.
Yeah, we were on the service road that they probably used to like maintenance stuff on the mountain, but we were driving up that. I'm like, I've never been that lost before.
The Fed will Fed.
Man, that was my first ever road trip in the Fed. I'm like, this is horrible.
Welcome to the league.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so
welcome to the league.
Yep. Everyone was grouchy. The coach at one point was getting all mad about something. Beneke comes to the back of the bus and he's yelling, and Chris Affinati, who was, Beneke's 6'3", Affy's, 5'6", 5'7". Affy's in his face. He's in Affy's face. I'm like, oh, it's going down right here on the bus.
Yeah.
The tempers will always run high when you're going on them long road trips, especially back in the olden days by the sounds of it.
Oh yeah. Well, and having Affinati around, there was always something to talk about and always a story. But yeah, he kept everyone honest on the ice and in the room, on the bus, everywhere.
It's a good way to have it. Someone to keep everyone else honest. That's really is.
Oh yeah, the nicest guy in the world. But man, if he thought you were picking on someone or something was going on or he didn't like what you were saying, he had no problem voicing up. And if you yap back, usually you caught a fist in the face.
Oh no!
One of the best ones was Lee McClure. We got him from Vermont after they folded, but he was a edgy kind of player. They had played against each other in another league, and so they always had a little bit of a rift before. Well, now they're teammates, and things are going well, but Affy, kind of just didn't like the way how mouthy was all the time, practice games. And finally, one practice, we were doing 3-on-3 in zone, and they went against each other. Or no, actually, they were on the same team. So they're on white, I'm on black. And we just went against each other. And I'm in line waiting to go again. I'm looking over at them, and they're arguing about something. Next thing you know, they drop the gloves, they fight, it ends. They put their stuff back on and they got right back in line to do the drill again. And after that, there's never a problem between those two.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Sometimes you just got to chat them and just handle your business and get back on the horse and ride it.
Well, and fans might not understand, but yeah, full blown fight. Same you're going to see during the game, people swinging for knockouts. And then minute it's over, just gloves, helmets back on, get back in line and keep practicing. Like it didn't affect anything. It's like, will you guys hurry up? We're trying to finish this drill.
We're waiting. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like schoolyard days when we were all kids circling around while your buddies were fighting the big bull. That's what I'm picturing. Like, did you guys circle around or just stood there like, hurry up already, guys? Come on.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think anyone circled up. We all just kind of just like looked over from where we were standing, just like, okay, are they done yet? Like practice jersey, like ripped, guys bleeding, and like, okay, let's go again.
That's nuts.
You definitely had a few of those, didn't you?
Hey, don't look me off. Pass me the puck this time.
I can picture that happening. You want to go? Okay. Drop the gloves, square up. That's awesome.
Handle your business and done. Go back to work.
Oh, yeah, I think almost on every team that I ever played on every season, there was at least one.
Really?
Even in Port Huron?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You walked us into that one. Who were the two in Port Huron?
There was one year we had this goalie. He actually fought, but there was another incident. One of the best ones with the goalie was in Mississippi. I told the guy, I'm like, hey, like, we just traded you to Danbury. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he's like fully dressed for practice, but the trade just went through. So I wanted to tell him before, by the time we got off the ice, it was going to be on the website. So I couldn't just have him go out and practice because the minute he got off the ice, he would see it on his phone. So I had told him beforehand, I was like, I talked to the coach. He knows we only have two goalies. So, he wants you to skate today, but he wants you to hit the road after practice and start heading up to Danbury. He's like, okay. Well, then something happened in the first drill because we usually do one or two drills and then we all circle up and stretch. Something happened during that first one or two drills where the minute we went to circle up and stretch, he kind of went after someone, and Pinkowski jumped up and got in between them, and those two fought, and Pinkowski broke his nose. Then I had to call Billy McCreary back and be like, hey, everything went well. He'll be heading to you in a little bit, but he tried to fight a guy at practice and broke his nose. He's like, what? Like they thought we went after him, like, oh, we traded him and we broke his nose. So like, good luck with this guy. I was like, I swear, I was like, it was not planned. I was like, this all just happened.
You can have them, but you have them broken.
But yeah, the goalie in Port Huron, his name was Potter, and yeah, he was a junior guy that we had called up, but he was a fiery goalie. I think he did get in a few games with us, but he was with us for a long time as like our third goalie, just practicing and hanging out. That was the year I think we had Simons and Paulin. It was Paulin's first year with the team in Port Huron, so. And then at the end of the year, I had to get rid of him, and we brought Karpinski in. So, we always had good goalies around there. Even if they didn't play well and the fans were all over them, they're still all good goalies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always been solid goaltending sitting there in Port Huron. Especially, I remember Chris Paul, and I've been there since the inaugural watching the boys. And, man, Paulie, Simons, I remember him playing. I do remember Potter. But there was always a couple good scraps. We have seen a couple good goalie fights on a Port Huron, but nothing like when you went out there and threw them hands. You always got the crowd right hyped and fiery.
Right. Well, and that I think it was just the part where it's like that was always part of my game, but then it's like you're also in charge of ticket sales and everything and run the team. So sometimes I was just frustrated because of everything going on. Sometimes I was like, this crowd is too quiet. Like we're scoring goals and people aren't even standing up to cheer. I was like, I was always one of those guys wanted to see the hometown crowd, no matter where I was playing, home or away, fired up and excited. Because if you're in Carolina and they're loud and they're getting into the game and you score a goal and they're booing you, it pumps you up just as much as when your crowd's cheering you on. So it didn't matter if you're the good guy or the bad guy. You have fun with a crowd that's into the game.
That's the key. You got to get the fans fired up, because when you get the fans fired up, the boys start playing and the boys get fired up, then pucks are going to get in the back of the net. People are going to get more rowdy, and it's just going to escalate. And that's the thing about the sport. You got to have that wheel always moving.
Well, and that's why I'm a big fan of Reggie being in Port Huron. I'm like, he was the right guy for the job there, and he does it all. He's almost like a mini little Mafoose because playing against Foose and with him for years, he always played high intensity hockey, but he was always interacting with the crowd. Fight, he's looking at the crowd, pumping them up, getting the bench pumped up. Goals, same way. So, I see Reggie doing that same thing, and it's like, I'm just happy Graham has a guy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
we love
is.
Reggie. We love
I know.
Reggie.
I remember countless times Foose going out there, man. Ooh. He'd be bloody and I remember him turning up to that crowd and them arms just flailing up and the whole place exploding. But then go right back out after his 5-minute major and put one in the back of the net and catch an assist within the next 5 minutes after that. Having a utility player like that is just phenomenal.
Right. And, he was one of a kind. So like seeing a guy like Reggie doing those same kind of things, it's nice to see that still in the game, because so many guys now, if you're a goal scorer, they want nothing to do with the physical side of the game. And, you're just going to see it more and more. Everyone wants to do toe pulls and score highlight reel goals. And, it's like Foose scored a lot of goals that were just dirty, and we call them greasy goals because they're just one hand on his stick, tip it in, chop at the puck. And it's like no one right now is asking how he scored those goals. They just ask how many he scored.
Yep.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's not about, okay, yeah, highlight reels. Okay, cool, whatever. You want to be on a highlight reel? awesome. But when you can get a guy, a utility player, to score goals, get in fights, serve 5 minutes, and still keep scoring and hyping up the crowd and mingling with the fans afterwards, that's the type of guy you need on your roster. Period.
Right. There was times it was tough having Foose around because he's a big personality in the locker room. He's sometimes rough to get along with when he wants his way, and you're trying to say, well, this is the way we're trying to do it for the team, and he didn't like that. But there's a story about him. He was playing in Dane, and they ran low on sticks, so they had no more lefty, P92 curves and a 85 flex or whatever. So he just went over to someone else's stick on the stick rack, took their stick, untaped it, taped it up, and just took their stick. And they're like, hey, that's mine. He's like, well, now it's mine. And then there's guys like buying their own sticks, and he was just like, hey, I'm going to use this today. They're like, my dad just bought that for me. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to use it. And then it breaks. And the kid's like, you broke my stick. He's like, okay, so.
What are you going to do about it? I needed it. My bad.
Well, and there's so many things with him. I love it because it just stories. But he always, to the game, he always wore a flat bill hat with a pair of Jordans with his suit. And for years, every coach always was like, dude, I need you in dress shoes. I need you in dress shoes. He's like, nope, and fought it. And he did buy a pair of dress shoes. The one year he got called up to the Central League, he went and played one game with Brampton, and he bought dress shoes, wore them to the rink. I think in the first period, he scored a goal, and then the coach sat him the rest of the period. And then he played like 3 more shifts the rest of the game. At the end of the game, he just packed his stuff, and he's like, okay, thanks, I'm out of here. They're like, what? He's like, I'm out of here. He's like, I don't need to be here to play like 6 shifts a game. See ya. And just left and went straight back to Dane. And I was like, so where are the dress shoes? He's like, oh, I left those at my mom's house. He's like, I'm not wearing dress shoes anymore.
That's great. Like, that's the thing. Like, we all talk. Like, we got Joe on. Like, yes, we got Joe on. And we're like, who's the other legends we can get on? Like, Andy, been watching you guys since 2016. I don't even been part of Port Huron for like a year now watching it. Everyone else is a couple years ahead of me or whatever. But it's like, who's are these legends that you guys keep talking about? Andy's like, well, this is Joe Pace. Mafoose. I'm like, well, let's try and get Mafoose on. So it's like we have a list of legends.
Well, that first year in Port Huron, that like the list of guys that was on that championship roster was kind of ridiculous because you had Foose and Alonzo, you had Jared Hicks, Taguna, Devine, Frazier, Pace, Peltier. We had Andy DeCristofaro in that all season. And then for playoffs, like right before playoffs, we had a Dan McWinney. And it's just like, the list just went on and on that year of guys that, either played other places or did big things around the league. So it was a fun year to be a part of a team like that.
Yeah.
It was damn near the all-star team. Everybody that was somebody in the Feds played on Port Huron in that 15-16 season.
Yeah, it was fun. And having Chris Levier that year was amazing. I still talk to him all the time from that one season. I got a lifelong friend out of a guy. And Roger Taguna, played against him, fought him, battled him. Frazier, same thing. And then getting to play with him, it was so much fun. Taguna actually, shout out to him because he's had a battle over the last, just over a year or so. He's kept it real private, but he got sick, and pretty sure it was a form of cancer. And, he beat it, put it in remission, but he's just kind of laying low right now, kind of deleted all his socials and everything, and just worrying about his kids and trying to get healthy. But I love that guy. And that's the thing, like a guy like him, he grew up up by the Hudson Bay, up in like, the middle of nowhere in the Arctic Circle, hunting polar bears and whales. And, like that was a big thing when you're old enough, you get to go on your first whale hunt. And I remember his family came down, or they shipped him stuff frozen, but they, sent him whale, and he would eat it raw. And I mean, when he would have a whale fart, I'm like, there was nothing that could clear out a room like after Taguna after he ate some whale.
Oh, that's
Oh.
awesome.
Oh boy. He's probably just like, yep,
Oh,
this is good.
you eat it like it's sushi. So you just have a nice chunk of it and just pop it in, and to them it's like eating beef jerky.
Ugh.
Hey, to each its own. I don't know if I could sit there and chum that down, but ooh.
Right?
Not a seafood guy.
And then I ended up playing with another guy years later, Danny Matitrick. He was in Mississippi, and we traded him up to Danbury, but he was from the same town, so they're all up there in that same little village. But you wouldn't believe it. They got to take like 3 planes to get up there, and a puddle jumper to finish off the trip. And he took pictures and sent it back to us at the end of the season of the convenience store, and like a 12 case of like Coke or Pepsi was like $18 or something. You're like, what? And they're like, yeah, it costs so much to get this stuff all the way up here.
Wow.
Dang.
It's like Blake Anderson on Port Huron's roster. He lives 4 hours north of Edmonton. And it's like, what's it like up there? And he's like, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's quiet. It's peaceful. But you're going to have to travel 2 hours to a little shack in the woods for items, and really need stuff. You're going to travel another 2 hours to Walmart in Edmonton. So being up that far, it really, you don't have much.
Yeah, he might be able to just go 2 hours north further and go to just Fort McMurray up on the oil fields and get stuff up there.
Yeah. It's you hear the stories and you're thinking to yourself, like, you came from the middle of nowhere, but it's like you have a passion, you're driven to play a sport that you love, and by God, you're going to do anything possible to go play that sport. It's just stories.
Yeah, the guys I've played with, it's amazing where we all came from. On one team, you might have a guy from the middle of nowhere in Russia, and a guy from Moscow, and a guy from the Arctic Circle in Canada, and a guy from Alaska, and then you got a guy from Texas and Florida as well. And you're like, how are all you guys all here playing together? And it's like, I don't know.
Then you get all the
I had to
different
go.
personalities.
It was always fun going to a school appearance, and the teacher's like, why don't you tell everyone where you're from? And that like everyone's from a different part of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool to like picture that little kid sitting there looking up to his idol, and like, wow, you live there? Yeah, the kid just tells the stories to his mom and dad. It's like, wow, I could picture that almost. It's pretty surreal.
Well, and for us, even you get to see how people on the other side of the world live, because even once they get here, some embrace American culture, and some, even though they still try to do things their native way. So I saw a guy, he ate rotisserie chicken, and then he just ate the bones as well. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, shut up. This is what we do in Russia. So if you want to know why the Russians are so tough, they just eat the bones and everything, grind them up in their teeth.
Ugh.
That explains the vodka.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh
Like,
my.
how hungry are you? Like, when was the last time you ate?
Oh my. Oh.
Oh yeah,
What?
or you see a guy cook pasta and put mayonnaise on his pasta, and you're like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's good." It's like, no, it looks horrible.
No. No, 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 no,
All right,
no,
we're on
no.
the food topic.
Oh yeah, I think Russians
Yeah.
put a lot of mayonnaise in a lot of things because I saw them put on pasta, put a scoop into like chicken noodle soup. I'm like, okay, to each their own.
Ew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of speechless right now, Joe. Jeepers.
It's not making you guys hungry.
No.
No.
Not in the
No.
slightest.
No, no.
I'll stick with my jerky a little bit.
Is that beluga whale jerky?
What
It's
was
just-
it? What was it like playing for your dad?
So yeah, did you guys have a fun year down there? Because watching it on TV, it looked like the crowds were hopping in the thumb.
Oh yeah, we were pretty amped up in Port Huron.
Yeah, and the pregame production, looked pretty cool. I know as they when they got that stuff, I was in touch with Graham, and he was excited about the projectors and them getting installed, and it turned out amazing. And it's just just took someone. I've always said it. If you just own one team, you could focus a lot on that team and do things the right way. And hopefully it doesn't affect things this upcoming season that Ken now, the owner there in Port Huron, has two teams because he's going to have the Detroit Motor City team again and Port Huron. So hopefully it doesn't pull his attention away. But you see what, Andreas was able to do. He had Watertown and Binghamton. He got rid of Watertown, focused on Binghamton, turned it into a mini dynasty. And this year, it's going to be interesting to see where he puts his focus because now he's going to have three teams. It sounds like he's got Baton Rouge, he's got Mid-South up in South Haven, which is, Mississippi, but on the border of Memphis, and then Binghamton. So I was like, when these guys just have one team like Jeff Krupp, they could do really good things when they, aren't having their attention pulled in, 6 or 7 different directions with phone calls from, teams that are, stuck on the road or bus broke down or we're trying to check into the hotel. We can't get in.
It's different. Sorry, Rick. It's different seeing owner say, okay, we're going to put everything into this one team, and 3-5 years down the road, they have another team. I think it's great for the league to have multiple teams, but it kind of sucks for the owner. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause now he has to babysit 3 teams.
Well, my first year in the SPHL, I played for an owner that had 2 teams. And I think shortly after that, they made it a league rule that, you could only be the majority owner of one team. You could be an investor in another team, but you can't be, a sole owner of 2 teams or the majority owner of 2 teams. So I don't know if that's still a rule or not, but I know they did that early on because they're like, well, one team's getting everything and the other team's getting scraps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's
So, sort of from what I've gathered from Ken, is he's put the right people in each spot to run the two teams, and he'll be wherever he's needed during that time. He's going to keep it well balanced. Like me and Richard had the pleasure to go to a corporate sponsor party here just this past week, or just past Thursday. And just the way he broke it down, like, nope, I'm still making some arena upgrades here in Port Huron, but I'm also going to assist the Yak down there in Wyandotte. So by the sounds of it, it looks like he's going to keep it pretty well balanced with himself, to that way both teams are met with their needs, which is a rarity. You had said there, when somebody has their hand in a couple teams, usually someone's little brother, but it seems like he has a plan to keep it very well balanced.
Yeah,
going
I can
along
tell
with
you
that.
from experience, years with Barry, he always said, I'm going to do it fair, but there was always a little bit of advantage to the team that had the better crowds and more money coming in.
Yeah.
But the way he did it was, the teams operated themselves as much as they could, and then he would help. So the teams, like when Carolina came in and they were selling out games, and they were running the concession stands and all the alcohol sales out of the building and the whole fairgrounds. The team had a lot of money coming in, so they were able to do a lot more than Danville or Port Huron because, their income was, just, triple or more than what we could ever do. So, obviously I understood that, but when the players are like, hey, I play for that same owner, why don't we get all this stuff as well? And it's like, well, we can't buy it. And he's like, well, why can't he buy it for both of us? And it's like, well, he didn't even buy it for them.
Yeah.
They bought it for themselves.
Well, then
That's
it looks
the
like
thing.
here's the good thing about us with the Yak only holding 1,000. We're guaranteed to beat their attendance. Our average was pretty good this year, so we're gonna be big brother.
Yep.
Going along
They
that, I do want
always
to
want
ask
to
you
be
a
the big
question.
brother.
With the Port Huron market, because you're right, you were in charge of the team for many years, and Ken's new biggest push is try to get over 2,000 in McMorran every home game, right?
Who could hear Rick?
Oh,
I can.
Tell me
Okay.
what he's saying.
you
Okay.
got me, Joe?
So he's
Go ahead.
saying,
Go
go
ahead,
on,
guys.
Andy.
So what he was trying to say within this Port Huron market, obviously you were in charge of the team for quite a few years here. Ken's big push is for 2,000 fans. How do you want me to finish that, Rick?
Basically ask him, with his experience with the market and everything, what's necessary to get us over that hump, to get us that 2,000 or more?
So with him wanting the 2,000 fans or more, what do you think would be necessary to get us over that hump to see that 2,000 fan average?
Well, the last time a team was averaging 2,000 fans a game there was when the city owned the Port Huron Flags in the IHL when they had moved over from the United League. So we came in, I think, the Ice Hawks might have said they were doing the same numbers, but I think the true last time someone was averaging 2,000 or more was the Flags. And, obviously we go back to, it was probably a good time. It was before, the big financial crash and all that in 07, 08. The Flags were there in 05, 06 and 06, 07. So they had good years. I think the biggest thing is what they did this last year. It's all about the entertainment side. The game has never changed. The game's the same game it's been for 200 years. The game's hockey. Everyone likes watching it if you know it. And even when you get new fans in the door, they love watching it in person. If you try to put a new fan in front of a TV to watch a hockey game, it's hard for them to follow. A lot of it depends on the cameraman and how fast he could follow the puck. But if he's too jerky with the camera movements, it makes people sick to their stomach. So, watching a hockey game live is the best way to watch it. I'd rather watch a football game on TV, an NFL game, compared to watching it in person. But hockey at any level, it is a million times better live in person. And then it's enhancing that ticket, the pregame production, the way they score and do the lights. I think now to get over that hump, it's to keep venturing further outside the Port Huron zip code, because, there's nothing for the people in St. Clair or up in Lexington to do. It's either drive past Port Huron and go down to Detroit or head south and go down south, or, from St. Clair, come up north, come watch a game, hang out. I know I was there 7 years. And I still talk to people, you're at gas stations, passing out pocket schedules, and someone's like, oh, we still have hockey? Are they still whatever? They say a team like the Ice Hawks. I'm like, man, they've been gone for 10 years. They're like, oh, what? And it's like, so no matter what you do. So I know, obviously it's a big marketing push, but, to get on streaming networks and TV with commercials, to be on radio, to have a billboard or two, all those things help. And now with the digital billboards, you could do something where you're popping up in 3 different locations. And I know the deal we did down here, we did 3 digital spots for the course of the season. And with those, they gave us 1 permanent one for free. So we got, one on the highway on the interstate that just was there all season. And then the ones around town were all those digital ones that, they flip every 10 or 15 seconds. So, that was just something because this market was so big down in Mississippi that, we had to do more than what he was, what Barry was doing in North Carolina or up in Michigan. So, we had to make a push to try to put more butts in the seats. And, I think we did it for that neutral site game when we sold just shy of 9,000 tickets. We sold out the building for the first time. Hockey's only sold out at that Coliseum 2 games. One was the Kelly Cup Championship in 1999 in the East Coast League. And then we sold it out for the 3rd neutral site game in 21. So it was an awesome accomplishment. I'll never forget what it was like, but other guys don't either. Gus Ford played in that game, Baker, all those Carolina guys, but they were playing against Port Huron. So, Graham and Johnson, Federley were all there for it. But Garrett Rutledge tells it the best. Ruts, I think the Carolina game had 72 or 7,300, and that game might have been louder than the game with 9,000 just for the intensity. And it was a 1-goal game, and it came down to the buzzer. But it was so loud that there was stuff falling from the ceilings. There was like Mardi Gras confetti shaking and falling off the catwalk that, had been up there from the year before. There was dust coming down that, it was almost like rust and dust. All this was falling from the ceiling. They're like, what is this on the ice? I'm like, the roof's about to cave in.
So that's called bringing the house down with the performance there.
Yeah, it really was that night. We had to stop the game a few times just to clean up stuff like that. It was just, it was a wild night.
Yeah.
And actually that night, the Zamboni driver had shaved down one of the goal creases where he was like touching the paint for the crease. But the paint for the crease, so what they did was they put down 2 inches of ice for Disney on Ice. So when they put the ice in November, it was just white, no lines. Well, they had 2 inches. Well, then they painted the lines on top of that and put like another 1.5 inches on top of that. So when the goalie saw the like blue paint coming up, he's like, I'm hitting the concrete. Well, under that blue paint for the crease was still another 2 inches of ice. So everyone was like by the goal net talking about it. They're like, oh, we can't have him doing it. But in that paint is like metal or iron. So when your skate hits it, like you almost like if you hit the paint, you just pretty much lose it. It's like, hitting sand. And so he was moving funny in the crease. And I went over there to the refs and them. I'm like, we have to finish this game. I was like, no matter what, we cannot cancel this game right now. It was like the 2nd period. And I went and talked to both coaches. I was like, it's good. We're not touching the concrete, but the paint's popping through. We just got to play through it. It's like, we just got to keep going. And they're both like, what the? I'm like, just bear with me. And then literally, I forget if it was that game or the 3rd game. I think it was the 3rd game. In between the 2nd and 3rd, the Zamboni blew up and he like got something caught in the augers and the thing like sparked, like almost flames popped out. It started smoking. He pulled off the ice and the ice was half done. And Jerome Bouchard in Columbus is like, we can't play on this. I'm like, we're finishing the game. I'm like, I don't care if we have to shovel it old school style and I'll get a mop out here. I was like, let's just finish. I was like, please, let's finish.
Yeah. At that point, you got to finish the game. You just got to finish the game.
Well, our motto, me and Barry, I think I said it first and he loved it, but it's like the circus. The show must go on. Like, it doesn't matter if the tiger got out the cage and ran away, show must go on. And, that's the same thing. You break down on a road trip, bus breaks down. well, we can't get it fixed. Let's rent vans and let's finish this drive because, hey, Watertown expects us to be there tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for warm-ups, and we're not missing warm-ups.
Yeah. At that point, yeah. So I this question's been bothering me for a while. Will there be hockey in the golf? Like, I know Biloxi closed, but will that team come back next year or a few years down the road, Joe? Or how's that?
I think it's a matter, some ownership, someone, taking that gamble, signing a lease again in the building, wanting to do it again. I know there's not a lot of life left on that building. I think they started in the 60s and finished, I think, late 60s, early 70s was the day the doors opened on that building. So it's old. It needs a lot of work, all the inner workings of it, from, electrical to plumbing, stuff like that. But they were talking about it when we moved here. They said, probably 15 years and this building's going to have to be torn down and we're going to have to see a new one get built or find funding for it. And that's literally what they just did in Mobile, Alabama. So Mobile's 50 miles down the road, and they had an old building that, they just couldn't keep up with it. They had gotten a grant and city funding. They were going to do like a $90 million upgrade to it and, pretty much put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And all of a sudden they scrapped that idea and they just demoed it and built a whole new building. I think, I don't know what their final cost is going to be, but it's in the hundreds of millions. And they're going to have a state-of-the-art facility. They got an SPHL team moving in there. So the way it works is Mobile's probably 50 miles from Biloxi, but it's about 50 miles or so from Pensacola, Florida. So the Ice Flyers are going to have a nice rivalry with someone, and you're going to see a lot of fans bouncing back and forth, watching their team on the road. But yeah, hopefully someone could do something down here because there are a lot of hockey fans. It's just hard because some people don't want to hear it, but the fans down here don't love hockey as much as they love the Seawolves. And I think it was proven this year, you switch the name and attendance dropped and interest from the community dropped, and it just kind of went downhill after that.
That's sad. That's sad. It really is, because you I don't know. That's just sickening. Like, name change. Oh, sorry, fans. We got a new team. But you guys are the Seawolves for many years. Keep the name. It's just one of those things. You just got to keep it how it was. Like California.
Right. It's tradition. And you see it with the California teams, going back to names that they used in the 60s because it holds a special place in people's hearts. And, I feel like, when you touch someone's childhood memories and things like that, it brings back stuff. And I was so proud to see people come up to me at games down here in Mississippi, and they were like, I'm bringing my son to his first hockey game, and he's wearing a jersey that my dad bought me at my first game. I'm like, well, that's cool.
That is cool. Then
that's going to get the dads, the grandfathers taking their grandsons like, hey, look, I was here back in the 60s. Now the team's refabbed up, and now we got wonderful hockey in the great state of Cali again.
And earlier you guys asked me what I thought about that travel, and I said the Minnesota stuff would be long, and I talked about Danville. It sounds like everyone's going to be flying out to California. So, obviously there's added costs to flying because, people will say, hey, tickets are only $200. We got a deal. But that's $200 without your hockey bag, without your sticks, without the equipment bags. So I know when we flew with Mississippi up to Danbury and we flew to Delaware, we flew to Detroit, we actually had a truck with a trailer take off and drive all the gear for two of those trips. One trip we did fly with the gear and we just paid the extra for the bags because no one could drive it. But the other ones, we had someone, truck and trailer all the gear up there because it would have doubled the cost. Because, a few airlines are like, your hockey bag's one item, your sticks are a second item. And then it's like every hockey bag is over the 50-pound weight limit, especially goalie bags. So now you're paying not only for the check bag, but an oversized check bag. And I don't know. Sometimes I don't like flying. I think about that big hunk of metal up in the air. And then I'm like, wait, how much extra weight are we bringing on this plane? Like, could it handle it?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't wear a suit. I'm not a commissioner. And that's sorry, but I think that's kind of the league's problem. That's their logistic nightmare.
Yeah, it seems like it will be. Someone said they're not going to play each other as much as I guess, because I was like, oh, they're playing each other 20 times each. And they said, they're scheduled to play each other something like 16 times or something. And then they're doing one trip out east. And then, a couple of teams will make the trip out that way and play everyone when they're there. But Danville, our first season, we had, at the beginning of the year, we had 3 trips scheduled out east. Each trip we played 4 games. And then at the end of the year, we had 2 long trips. We had one where we were supposed to play 11 games in like 12 nights, or like it was 12 games in 13 nights. And then we had another trip out there that was like 10 games in like 11 nights. And those were 2 of the craziest road trips I had, where you're going out and you're just playing every night of the week. It was like one off night to get from Danbury to Watertown, and it was just like get right back after it again and then make another loop. And after the second loop, we're going to head home. But it was wild.
I like I said, all 4 of us agree that I want to see the schedule. I want to see how Port Huron, Motor City, because I think there's 7 of them that agreed to go out west. So it's like I really want to see who's the 7th or who's the 5, because we know Port Huron and Motor City are. But who's the other 5 that's willing to make that trip to play hockey out West Coast? It's going to be really intriguing when you dive down that rabbit hole.
I'm going to say Danbury is not part of that. I'm going to say the new Watertown team, or Watertown, their owner probably opted out of that, didn't want to do it. I could say maybe even Blue Ridge said no to that one.
Yeah.
I'm leaning. My thoughts would probably be Binghamton, Mid-South. Those are my other 2. But the other couple, that's going to be a big toss-up.
Right. Well,
Especially-
and
Go ahead.
I know teams like Columbus could probably afford to do it. I don't know how Jeff Krupp felt about that, or if he, said his team will go. But it's definitely an interesting setup, having teams in the Northeast, teams in the Midwest, teams in the South, teams now on the West Coast. And I think, the East Coast League, it took them a lot longer to grow to this size and, that footprint. But I think they had more teams in all the areas. So, when the East Coast League expanded west, there was 6 or more teams out west. So they could, really stay out there and play each other. And they didn't have to travel to Wheeling, West Virginia.
Yeah. I'm just hoping in a few years we can have more central, like the Dakotas and the Kansas. Well, we already got a team in Kansas, but Oklahoma, Texas, the central part of the states to have the middle portion of the Fed covered.
Yeah, and we didn't even think about that, but yeah, Topeka is probably the closest team to them.
Yeah.
Mileage wise, so we'll see. It's going to be interesting, but yeah, even when they put Topeka in last year, there's no one close to them. They're out on an island by themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the closest team's probably Monroe, but that's still probably a hike.
It was. I think their nearest trip was like 8 or 10 hours or something last
Ooh.
year. So, uh, it wasn't fun for them. They had some long road trips. I know I got to see Schmitty a little bit. They had a few trips where they came down to Baton Rouge or Biloxi, and they just played one weekend and they stayed all week till the next weekend because they're like, we're not driving all the way home to turn around and come right back.
Yeah. I know. Speaking of Schmidt, we had Schmidt on a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Yeah, Joe Pace and I had a couple doozies in Port Huron, and he was telling us a story about how you guys opened a case of beer and sat down and drank."
Yeah. So, and we played against each other in the SP his rookie season. He was in Huntsville. I was in Richmond. We never fought that year, but Schmitty, I think I had 100 and something penalty minutes. He probably had close to 300. He was probably in the high twos that year. But back then he was a lot skinnier and he had a massive afro. Like, I mean, this thing stuck out the sides of his helmet. He looked like, it looked like Sideshow Bob hair coming out the earpieces of the helmet. It was big. But I actually, years ago, he was going to come the year my dad was coaching in Port Huron. He was going to come to training camp that year, that 17-18 season. And something happened and, he didn't end up coming. But then he ended up in Columbus. And, because we knew each other, the first game we played against each other, we chatted. And then during the game, he was like, hey, like I think the game was getting chippy. It was like a game in Port Huron, and he's like, "Hey, let's have one and like settle all these guys down." And I was like, I was like, just traveled up for the weekend. I hadn't been practicing. I didn't feel like I was in shape. I'm like, we'll see. And then the first game in Biloxi, we saw each other before the game, and it was just like, "Hey, good luck tonight, good luck tonight." And it was like, "Well, maybe I'll see you out there." And it was just like, right when we said that to each other, it was kind of like, okay, like we both knew what each other were talking about. And it was probably mid first period. We ended up on the ice together. And I was just like, he had a regroup and I just skated from like my left D to his right D. And he like made a pass and I was like 5 feet from him. He's like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah." And that was the start of it. So that was the first one of many. And then I think we fought the very next night in Columbus. But then it was like probably like fight six. Like there was almost a bench clearing brawl. Like all the guys are by the red line and they're going at it. And it's just going and going. And no one's fighting, but everyone's pushing and shoving and grabbing each other and a lot of yapping. And then all of a sudden he jumped off the bench and he's trying to like pull his guys back. And I jumped off the bench and he just looked at me and I was like, fuck it. And we ended up having a good one. That one was like probably like a minute and a half. That one was our longest fight. And we get to the locker room and, because of things that had happened in Columbus in the past, they put up like a cage between the locker rooms in the hallway because there was some fights in the hallway over the years. So I just walked down and the cop that's like man in the cage, I go through. He's like, "Hey, hey, hey." I was like, "No, I got to go in the training room. I got to see the doctor." He's like, "Oh, okay." And he's kind of like watching us and we like see each other in the hallway and, embrace each other. And then we go in the training room and there was a guy in there getting stitches and we just like sat down and there was a case of beer in the cooler and we just cracked it open, started telling stories and drinking. The doctor and the trainer are stitching this kid up and they're like looking at us and listening to our stories more than they're stitching him. And then he leaves and we're still hanging out and the period ends and the guys are walking by and they're looking in and literally he just leans over and just shuts the door and slams it because his team's like, "Why are you in there talking to him?" Just slammed the door. We probably stayed in there an hour just hanging out. But that same thing happened in Port Huron I think it was last regular season game of that season. We had a fight in Port Huron, and I was actually wearing number 77. I was wearing Merritt's jersey because that was the game Casey Harris played. And so Casey Harris was wearing 13. I was wearing 77. Me and Casey both fought Schmitty. And after the game, I remember just hanging out with him, drinking beers, and people just kept coming through the back area by the Zamboni and taking pictures with us. And they're like, "Oh, so you guys like each other?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I don't hate them."
And that's the thing, like he said best, is like, yeah, you go out there and scrap. I'm gonna try and quote his words. If I slack off, I'm sorry. But he's like, yeah, we go out there and play a game. We may hate each other on the ice, but at the end of the day, we're friends. At the end of the day, we're gonna drink a couple cold ones with each other. And that's what we did. And sure enough, he did that. And it's just interesting to see, like, yeah, you guys may not like each other on the ice, but at the end of the day, you guys are going to go to the bar, drink a cold one, and have shake each other's hands. And that's the cool thing about this sport that we like. Excuse me.
Yeah, Joey Kosher was on Spin Chicklets, and he told a story. He grew up in an area, Saskatchewan, where, I think it was Kelly Chase or Twister, or one of those guys was from that same town, and he was like older than him, and Wendell Clark was from that town, and all these guys ended up playing against each other in the NHL for years. And it's like, well, some of them had fights against each other, and it's like, these are childhood friends that grew up playing hockey together, were in each other's weddings, and then they're fighting. And Yablonsky and McNasty had a couple like that, and they're best friends. They were, best man at each other's weddings, and they're fighting. And it's just like, well, if I'm getting paid to do this job on my team and you're getting paid to do this job on your team, we just can't let our friendship get in the way of this. And that's even like Affinati. I think I had 2 fights versus Affy, and we both grew up around Chicago. He was a little older than me. We were roommates in Amarillo in the Central League, played together in a couple other places, played together in Danville as well. And then it's like, okay, well, Port Huron's playing Danville, and, you just hit a guy from behind, or I did something and you don't like it. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to have a scrap. But after the game, it's just, like, hey, good job. And it's like, hey, how have things been? What are you up to? So you just, that conversation of the fight is very short, but then catching up on what you've been doing since I last saw you is the majority of the conversation.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's a handshake and off to the next game.
Right. And even a guy like Julian Frazier, there's some games I fought him and it's like, oh, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. And you don't know him and you're like, but then the minute he pulled into Port Huron that year, I was in the parking lot. Like, he pulled in, I was outside, and I went right up to him and we hung out, and I helped him unpack his car and bring his gear in. And it was just like, from that day on, the past did not matter at all. And now he was my teammate, and I was just happy to have him around. So, me and Frazier still talk from time to time, and I'm happy he got to be added to that Ring of Honor in Danbury this year. And they finally honored him for, his years of service with that city and that community. So that was cool to see. And what is it? Who's Clark Griswold's cousin, Eddie? He wore the Eddie suit to the game. He had the green suit with the white shoes.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, I know you were on 10-minute misconduct and everything like that. You give us one fantastic bus story. I think we had conversations with a lot of players on this channel, but it's like, you know what? I think Joe will have one good bus story for us. And I think there's too many bus stories, but one of my favorite ones, I was actually just talking to Matt Robertson the other night about it.
We left Port Huron and we left early because we have one bus driver and it's too long for one guy to take that whole drive. So we left early and we were going to stop in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we were going to let him like sleep like 6 hours and we were going to, go out and sightsee and see some of the town and maybe go for a hike. So we found this good hiking trail and they said, there's a waterfall and all this stuff. So we're like, this is going to be awesome. We could stay busy for a couple hours. Well, the route to get there was like up the side of a mountain. So you don't think about it when you're in Michigan looking at directions. But we're driving up the road and I was napping. But one of the guys looked over at Dolan J and he goes, Dolan, what does that sign mean? And Dolan goes, we're not supposed to be on this road. And he's like, what? Because it was like no 2 axles or more vehicles. And the signs were green. Then they went to yellow. Then that same sign was red. And it was like last chance to turn back, no 2 axles or more. So we're driving up the mountain and it's like switchbacks. I mean, tight turns. And maybe we could have made the turn if we went way out into the other lane and came back. But the driver was in our lane and he made that turn and the back wheels followed the front wheels. They went off the road and the bus tipped over on its side and we were stuck on a boulder. And good thing we were on the inside of the mountain. So we like fell into the hill, but we get off and the back wheels are off the ground and they're just spinning. And I'm like, Eric, stop. I'm like, we're stuck, man. So we had to get 2 tow trucks in there, one to like tip us up, one to pull us back. And like cars were backed up on both sides of the mountain for like an hour or more. People were walking up to the scene to be like, what is going on? We had a couple come up there with attitudes and we're just laughing. I think Brian Parsons even got some pictures of those people that were mad. But that was the beginning. That was going down there. All this happened. Well, then we play the games in Columbus and then we're leaving and we're coming back. And one of the tires blows out and we're out in the middle of nowhere. So I wake up in the morning and we're at a gas station. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, dude, we had a blowout. I'm like, so are we getting it fixed? They're like, yeah, they've been trying to fix it for an hour. And I'm like, okay. Well, I get off the bus and there is like wood all over the ground and all this stuff. And I think I posted a picture of it not that long ago, but on TikTok or something. But it literally looked like they had tried to start a campfire to try to get the tire off, but they were using wood to try to get their jack further up and all this. And the wood was just blowing out from all the weight. Well, they finally got the wheel off. They got the tire off. They're like, okay, now we're going to go to our yard an hour away and we're going to get you a new tire. So they come all the way back with the new tire and they're like, oh, it's the wrong size. They're like, we got to go back and get another one. Now, granted, these guys are making this trip back and forth in a Mini and they're putting a big semi tire like for the bus in the back of the Mini and they're driving back and forth. So just them drive time was like 4 hours of drive time. And we're there hanging out. Well, it was probably maybe an hour after I woke up. All of a sudden, guys had lawn chairs and they're on the roof and they're eating Burger King and drinking beers and they're sitting on the roof of the bus and people are waving at them and we're hanging out. Then later that day, the drinking kept going and we're hanging out. And then, the goofy stuff happened. It was like, well, who could crawl through this whole covert from one side of the road to the other at the other gas station? So Matt Robertson's like, I'll do it. And he's got a Burger King crown on. He's got a Bluetooth speaker in his pocket and he takes down this covert. I mean, you look, it's like black. You can't even see the other side. It was so far. And we're all on the other side waiting for him and it's quiet. We're like, you coming? You in there? Did you get stuck? Nothing. All of a sudden you hear the music and we're like, I could hear the music. He's getting closer. Well, he couldn't hear us because he had the speaker going full blast. So he had no idea. But he came out the other side, spider webs all over the crown and stuff. And that was pretty funny. But then we ended up hiking up the side of like some bluff little mountain. We like went up into the woods. We were hanging out up there. But there's a picture of us somewhere, half the team wearing Burger King crowns, and it looks like we're up on top of a mountain. And that was just because we broke down and we were just making the best of it.
That's
That's the type
awesome.
of shit there to bring the team close.
Man, but the stories, even from that year, we had that really good team, the 17-18 team when my dad was coaching. It was like every trip something happened. If the bus didn't break down or run out of gas, or we got stuck in the snow, or who was doing something on the bus, and we got pulled over. We saw things getting thrown out the back hatch. We wanted to check on you guys, or the side windows were open. Like, are you guys okay?
And that's the thing about this league. You hear the veterans and the legends talk, and it's like, my God, that was one interesting year, or one interesting season, or that 10 years span. That was interesting. It's good to hear stories like that, so younger generations know what the Fed is about, or was about.
Well, I said it the other night to Robo. Things are literally getting better every year. But my attitude was, a lot of guys were mad when they came to the Fed. Their dream was to leave college, play in the coast. Then it was like, well, that didn't work. I'm going to play in the SP. Well, then after a few games, they get cut there. They have nowhere to go. They end up in the Fed, and they're just mad. They're down the dumps. They're hating hockey. They expected all these great things from their career, and now they're playing in the Fed. And it's like, well, you're still playing hockey. It's better than working a 9 to 5. But what I always said, I was like, if you're playing in the Fed, if you're not having fun every single day, it's not worth being here. So I tried to make it fun for the guys all the time. And, if it was just stopping the bus at some area that's a roadside attraction or something. The one year we stopped the bus at Ruby Falls. It's a underground cave in Chattanooga. It takes you 1,000 feet under the mountain, and there's a waterfall that they can't explain where the water comes from. They have no clue. It's like a mystery. And we hiked down in this cave, and that was the year I had Matt Caranci with me, another Fed legend from Danbury and Watertown by out of Mississippi. And we're following the tour guide, and there's all these pathways and caves under there, and they take you one way in and then one way out. Well, that guy, he saw a different way, and he just took off, and we were in the back, and someone taps me like, hey, Carancy's gone. I'm like, what do you mean he's gone? And they're like, that last turnoff, he just turned right and went by himself. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it took about an hour and a half, but he finally met back up with us. So we lost Caranci in a cave in Tennessee for a while, but we found him.
Funny you mentioned that, because I've actually been there myself.
But yeah, that trip still, I know some guys, they still, when I talk, they're like, remember when you took us to Ruby Falls? And I know Barry or someone probably saw that, that credit card statement, and they're like, what the heck was $380 at Ruby Falls? What are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, I took everyone down in a cave.
Yeah.
It was a team bonding. Yeah, we got to do team building exercises. And we were closer after that day. Everyone was having fun, and we had just went through a change. I had just taken over the team. We had a coaching change. So, we started off the season great. We started off the season I think 3-1 or maybe 2-1, and then lost 10 straight games or 11 straight games. So guys were in the dumps. So we needed a pick-me-up.
Yeah. That's the thing. You got to have that bonding moment. Even though if it's going to be a crappy bonding moment, it's still a bonding moment. It's still bringing the guys together in a time of need.
And that's usually what the rookie party's for. I know some teams wait till later in the year once the team's a little more set, the roster. But when I started, it was always towards the beginning of the year because that was a huge bonding night. That was a night where, you know, it really brought guys together. And even other teams where it happens a little later in the season, it's usually right before a playoff push. So, you know, you have that, you know, weekend where you could have that off night or wherever it is. And it creates stories. And, you know, all of a sudden it's like, well, we're all a lot closer and now we're ready to finish the season. So no matter what time of year it is, it always brings the team together because it's just a fun night and, you know, just a bunch of shenanigans. And, you know, there's no real hazing. I wasn't part of stuff like that, but I know it happens in sports. You know, ours was more like, you know, rookies or, you know, back in the day, you know, put them all in dresses and make them go out to dinner and sing songs and tell jokes at restaurants. Well, nowadays you see guys wearing dresses, you just think they're, you know, a whole different group of, you know, weirdos. Back then we were hockey weirdos that, you know, people came up, took pictures with us. It was funny.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Really?
But the year in Quad City, none of us rookies knew they had it planned, but we played like we played Thursday at home, Friday in Flint, and then Saturday in like Port Huron. So we were home Sunday morning, and so they're all like meet at Pace's apartment, you know, 11:30, you know, whatever it was. I'm like, what? Like, why are we meeting at my place? They're like, rookie party. Well, all of a sudden, all the rookies are there, and one of the vets walks in with a box. They had went shopping the week before at Goodwill, and they come in and they just start dumping out like old granny clothes. It was like the hats, you know, a granny wears to like Sunday dinner or like stuff like that, or church. There was purses, there was girls' shoes. And at the time, my girlfriend was there, this girl, Katie, and she's like, what is going on? And then we're all getting dressed. And I was like, do my makeup. So then she did mine and did all the other rookies. She gave us all some blush and some eyeliner. She was hooking us up. So we were trying to embrace it. And then the vets were getting mad at us. They're like, you guys are having too much fun with this. But then, you know, we all had our purses. We had stuff in our purse. You had your phone, your keys, your stuff. You're like, where's my purse? It's got all my stuff in it.
That's funny.
I have to say, not having all your stuff in your pockets all night, it leaves you room to be limber and move around.
Yeah.
Tells me, go dance. Okay, I'll go dance. But actually, my roommate, here's a good one. We could finish it on this. My roommate, Cody Doucette, we hit all these bars and restaurants around town. We ate at Outback. And that night, our last bar was a karaoke bar that actually turned into a spot where we went all the time. But that was the first night we ever went. And on karaoke nights, they did like $1 Bud Lights. So like the vets were ordering like 50 Bud Lights at a time. And at the end of the night, one of the girls, who I guess was a regular there, was like, went up to my roommate, Cody, and she's like, I love that dress. I want to buy it from you. So he sold the dress to her for who knows how much money. And he left in just like whatever he had on underneath his like compression shorts or whatever he was wearing. And he went back because now he had no dress. So he's like, I'm almost naked in the bar. I got to leave. So he left and went home. And we finished off the night there. And I get home and I'm like, he had the keys. I'm ringing the bell and stuff to get up. I'm buzzing the buzzer. And he's not answering. He's not buzzing me in. I'm like, what the heck? So I went and slept at someone else's apartment. And I get up in the morning. It's like maybe 6:30, 7 a.m. I go back. I hit the buzzer. And right away, I get let in. And I get upstairs. And he's on the couch, like, eyes so wide. Like he just saw a ghost. I'm like, dude, what happened? What happened to you last night? I was ringing the buzzer. He's like, I got back and I put a pizza in the oven and I passed out. And then I'm like, and then what? He's like, a fireman in full gear came in and was poking me with his stick. And I was like, wait, what? And I guess the fire alarm went off. So the fire department came, they got into the building, they got up to the unit, they went in, our whole place was filled with smoke ceiling to floor. And so they're in there on the full respirator. They come in on the SCBA and they're poking him like he's dead. He wakes up and they're like, "Hey!" So they open the door, they clear the smoke out, and in the trash. So he tells me the story. I go over the trash and look, and I mean, there was a frozen pizza that was black. It was crisp. It was like a brick. And I guess he had let it cook so long that it started catching on fire. And yeah, I missed all that. Everyone else missed it. We were all sleeping, but I was able to get that story from him fresh out I missed the fire department by minutes.
Well, you got a little pun to that. You got that story fresh out of the oven. I mean,
Oh,
fresh
yeah, yes,
out
I
of
did.
the oven.
Wait, and here's the best part. After the next weekend's games, we went back to that karaoke bar the next Saturday night or whatever it was, or Sunday afternoon, and the girl was wearing his blue dress singing karaoke.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, Joe, I want to say thank you for hopping on Thumbfed Talk, telling us about your stories and your career. Next time you're up this way in Port Huron, make a visit. I really want to shake your hand. I really do. I didn't really get the chance to watch you, but I want to shake your hand, sir. I mean, I know you're a busy man and everything like that, but yeah.
No, if I'm up there, you guys will see me for sure.
You got to get on Grammer's ass, get a celebrity contract. We need the Pacer one more
Yes.
time in Port Huron.
Yes.
I know. I said if they got to make a rule, you could do 2 in one night because me and Casey want to play together again.
Oh, that'd
That'd be a
awesome.
good finish from the past.
Oh yeah.
Joe,
Well, guys,
you.
thank you.
You're welcome. You have a
You're
great
welcome,
day,
Joe.
sir.
Thanks, Joe.
No, this was awesome. I appreciate it, guys.
You're welcome.
Of course.